You are already in position when it changes. The door opens and two people walk in instead of one. The file said 1840, solo arrival, predictable pattern. The file is wrong, not completely, just enough to matter. You stay still, breathing controlled, body aligned with the structure around you. Your hand rests where it needs to be, not gripping, not tense, just ready. Distance holds at 12 meters. Lighting cuts across the room in uneven bands. A second presence introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty is where mistakes begin. You don't act. You observe, adjust, and withdraw without friction, leaving no trace of the decision. This is how it begins now, not with action, but with restraint. You didn't start here. In the beginning, you were assigned to watch, not interfere. Long hours in parked vehicles, memorizing routines that never seemed important until they repeated with precision. You tracked movements, logged times, noted habits that people thought were random but weren't. Payments came in exact figures, 2,000 for a week, 5,500 for a completed cycle of observation. You never met the same handler twice. Rooms were controlled environments, temperature fixed at 19 degrees, walls bare, surfaces clean. A folder would be placed in front of you and nothing else would be said. You learned quickly that silence was not emptiness, it was structure. The first time you carried a weapon, it wasn't presented as escalation. It was framed as necessity, a contingency, something you hoped not to use but prepared for anyway. You trained without being told you were training. Empty rooms, repeated movements, angles refined until they required no thought. When the moment came, it wasn't hesitation you felt, it was alignment. The target moved outside the expected path, and you adjusted without pause. One action, controlled and final. Afterwards, there was no acknowledgement, just an increase. 5,500 became 18,000, no explanation, just progression. Time stopped organizing itself into months or years. It became a sequence of completed operations. You moved through cities without attachment, lived in spaces that were never yours, used names that expired as soon as the task ended. You owned nothing that couldn't be discarded. Phones were tools, used briefly and methodically dismantled. Sleep was conditional, taken when it fit the schedule, not when it was needed. Food became a calculation, 2,200 calories to maintain function, no more, no less. You reduced yourself to efficiency. The system revealed itself through absence. No direct communication with others like you. No repeated contact points. No digital trails. Instructions were followed exactly, unless following them created risk. Then you adapted, but only within limits. Too rigid and you failed. Too flexible and you became unpredictable. And unpredictability was the only thing the system would not tolerate. You learned to exist inside that narrow margin, where control was maintained without being visible. Years passed and the assignments changed, fewer but more complex. Payments increased, 75,000 then 120,000, but the numbers stopped mattering. They were just indicators of how precise you needed to be. You stopped executing and started structuring. Entry points, exit routes, contingencies layered over contingencies. Every operation became something you built long before you carried it out. And still, there were always gaps, missing variables, unseen factors. You expected them. That's why the witness changed everything. A controlled environment, predictable sequence, clean execution. Until a door opened at the wrong time, a person stepped into the frame, saw enough to register something was wrong. Not clearly, not completely, but enough. Exposure didn't feel like failure, it felt like compression. Time narrowed instantly, what was planned over days reduced to minutes. You didn't react emotionally, you recalculated. The witness was now part of the system, whether they understood it or not. The response came without explanation, a signal sent, a deviation acknowledged, and hours later the file was updated. The mission expanded. One target became two, no discussion, no hesitation. You reviewed, memorized, destroyed. This is how the system corrected itself, by absorbing what threatened it. Execution changed under pressure, less time for observation, more reliance on inference. You located the witness first. Their routine was already unstable, movements inconsistent, patterns broken by fear they didn't fully understand. That made them harder to predict, but easier to isolate. You adjusted timing, controlled the environment, minimized exposure. One action, then the second. No escalation, no noise. Clean, controlled, final. Afterwards, there was nothing. No acknowledgement, no reaction. You moved to a different location, a room that wasn't yours, and reviewed the outcome. Data points aligned, objectives completed. The system confirmed success in the only way it ever did, by continuing without interruption. Over time, the erosion became harder to measure. You stopped recognizing the person you were before this, not because you forgot, but because it no longer applied. Relationships faded without conflict, calls unanswered, messages unreturned. Distance wasn't enforced, it was chosen, gradually, until there was nothing left to maintain. Isolation became structural, not emotional. You existed within the system completely.
The realization came quietly, not during an operation, not under pressure, but in stillness. You understood that there was no endpoint, no final assignment that released you. The system didn't conclude, it replaced, it continued. Your role wasn't permanent, it was functional. When the transition happened, it wasn't announced. Fewer assignments, longer gaps, payments reduced, not removed. A signal, subtle but clear. You were no longer central, just peripheral. Then eventually, nothing. No final meeting, no closure, just absence. You step out of it the same way you operated within it, without trace. No record of entry, no record of exit. The apartments, the names, the routines all dissolved behind you. Somewhere else, another file is placed in front of someone new. The temperature is still 19 degrees. The instructions are just as precise. The system continues exactly as it did before you, unchanged by your presence, unaffected by your absence. And for the first time, you understand your role completely. You were never part of something that ends, only something that replaces.